Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to AlphaBiolabs breakfast webinar, How to Effectively Monitor Alcohol Consumption. By way of introduction, my name is Andrew Priestley. I'm the marketing manager for the legal sector, and I'm joined this morning by my colleague, Ashley Hodgkinson, who's our sample collections manager. Firstly, just wanted to say apologies for the technical issues we had last week. If there's any inconvenience caused, do apologise. We were literally about to go live, and for some reason, my microphone wasn't working. So do apologise for that, and thank you for joining us this morning at the rearranged webinar. So in terms of our agenda, we will keep it to within the 30 minutes this morning. Appreciate you'll have busy days ahead. We'll start by setting the scene, really. So answering the question, why should you consider alcohol monitoring? I'll then hand over to Ashley and you'll discover the latest enhancements to our SCRAM CAM ankle bracelet service. And then we'll move on to Smart Mobile, where you find out more about the benefits of considering Smart Mobile as a solution too. As part of that, we'll also learn how SCRAM and Smart Mobile can be used independently of each other with different clients, or indeed in succession as part of a scaled monitoring program. We'll then conclude, as we always do with these webinars, with a Q&A session. So on that, because we're using the Zoom technology this morning, you will have access to both the Q&A and chat functions. Please do use either of them throughout to ask any questions that you think of. As part of the Q&A session, we'll answer as many as we can, subject to time. But what we will do is tomorrow, we'll also send you a recording of the webinar with answers to any question that's asked today. So please do ask as many questions as you want. We'll make sure that you get an answer to them. We'll also issue a couple of optional polls during the webinar, so please do get involved in those. And there's also a post-webinar survey if you could kindly complete that before you log off today. Okay, so let's get started. So just to set the scene, so why should you consider alcohol monitoring? Well, firstly, alcohol monitoring allows for the measurement of your client's ongoing alcohol consumption. So you've probably used this before for alcohol testing. So alcohol testing is all about the historical consumption. It's taking different types of samples, head hair, body hair, toenails, fingernails, blood also for alcohol, and looking back over a period of time at the alcohol consumption of your client. Alcohol monitoring is about the now and the future. It's ongoing measurement looking ahead. So it is a little bit different to what we talk about with alcohol testing. And it can be used to complement court-approved reports on alcohol testing for historical consumption. So it's all compliant with the court process. And it's proven to be successful for ensuring that clients refrain from drinking completely or only at certain agreed times. And we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail, how both solutions that we look at this morning do work. Also, it can be used, either of them, at the pre-proceeding stage to avoid a potential court case. So any social workers watching today, anybody involved in the pre-proceeding stage, both solutions should be considered at that stage as well. And above all, ultimately, it makes parenting time safer, which is obviously what we're all about. So that hopefully sets the scene for you. With that, I'm just going to launch an open poll. We're going to talk about SCRAM first of all. So you should see a poll on your screen now. I'm just going to give you a few moments to answer that, please. Just want to gauge the sort of level of awareness of the SCRAM ankle bracelet. It's just 3 questions there. If you answer yes, the first one, please answer 2 and 3. If it's a no for question 1, then just put not applicable for 2 and 3. Great, lots of responses coming in. Just give you a few more seconds and I'll end that and I'll share the results with you. Okay, I think everybody's just about answered that. Thank you very much. I'm just going to end the poll now. Let's just have a look at the results. Okay, so the first question is, have you previously heard of the SCRAM ankle bracelet? 78% of you have indeed heard of it, which is great. So if you have heard of it, have you used the product with a client? Well, probably about half of you have, which is great. And for those that have, would you use it again? And it looks like almost all of you say you would consider using it again. So that's really positive. So thanks for doing that opening poll. I'm just going to stop sharing the screen now. So I'm going to hand over to Ashley now, and she's going to talk in more detail about how the SCRAM bracelet works. Ashley.
Hello, thank you for joining us. So like Andrew said, we're going to cover SCRAM first, and then we'll move on to Smart Mobile. So most of you said that you had heard about this, so we'll just do a brief recap and explain the benefits of it, how it works, and how it could work in potential cases for your clients. So you can see on the screen there on the right hand side, that's exactly what the bracelet looks like, and it must be fitted to your client's ankle. And we have had requests before to see if they can wear it on the wrist, but that's not the case. It has to go on the ankle. Typically, we would expect a client to wear the bracelet for anywhere between sort of 30 days up to 120 days. But you can have it on your client for as long as deemed necessary. So we can go further than 120 days, or we can do less than 30 days. The bracelet itself is going to take a reading every 30 minutes, and it's monitoring 24 hours a day. So you'll start to build up a picture of your client's drinking habits, be that they are drinking or proof that they are remaining sober. Like Andrew mentioned, you can use this for a number of different reasons. Most people tend to go or to associate SCRAM bracelets with sobriety because that's typically what they're used for. So in cases where someone has explained that they do have drinking habits, but they are trying to abstain from drinking, this can be a very beneficial way of monitoring that to see how they're progressing in that program, whether it is successful and they are reducing and then abstaining, or if they need some further help along the way in order to get to that point. However, particularly this time of year, SCRAM bracelets can also be used for parents who have custody of their children on certain days, or have visitation with their children on certain days and have them in the care on their own, so that you can see that, yes, they may be drinking over a weekend when they don't have the children, but when the children are in their care, they remained completely sober. And this is the type of result that you're not necessarily going to get from your hair strand testing, because that's looking at previous timeframes as a whole. This type of monitoring specifically looks at the here and the now and what is happening on a day-to-day or 30-minute by 30-minute basis. So like we said, it's going to take a reading every 30 minutes. It is only looking to detect alcohol that's ingested into the body. So it can differentiate between alcohol that is consumed and environmental exposure to products containing alcohol. So if that was a query that any of you had about whether it could differentiate between the two, it definitely can. It's a very intelligent piece of technology, so it can also advise us if your client removes the bracelet, as it's meant to be fitted for the entirety of the monitoring period, or if they tamper with it or mess with it in any way. If they wedge something between their ankle and the bracelet, it can detect all of those things and it will report into us. It's looking at low-level alcohol consumption as a base, so anything more than a unit, the bracelet will detect. It will confirm that that is a true drinking event, so it rules out the environmental exposure and things like that. And then it will be able to be reported to yourselves so that you can use that to advise your client going forward. So how does it get the readings to us? It works through something called a base station. This is what it looks like. It looks a little bit like a Wi-Fi router. The bracelet holds the readings, stores them. It's got a big memory. It lasts up to 90 days at a time before it just needs refreshing. However, the bracelet is in constant communication with the base station, and it's the base station that puts all of the results online to a platform where we at AlphaBiolabs can view them, interpret them, and then report them back to yourselves. And we do that within 24 hours of being notified of a confirmed drinking event. The base station does require power, so it does need to be plugged in the client's home. However, it runs off a SIM card, so they don't need internet connection for us to be able to retrieve those readings. If you have a client of no fixed abode, or someone who isn't willing to plug this in the home, or maybe isn't at home very often, they might move around a little bit. That's fine. They can wear the bracelet without having the base station. It just means that we'll need to go out and visit them in order to download all of the data. So if you did have a client who had children in their care and you did want to ensure day to day that they are holding up their end of the agreement and staying sober, then you will want the client to have a base station in their home. So, because this is how we're going to retrieve those readings. So different options. If you are having the bracelet fitted somewhere away from home, like at your offices, or if you make use of one of our free walk-in clinics, we can still fit the bracelet, but obviously the base station wouldn't be installed at the time of fitting. So they just either need to pop back to the clinic, or we can go out and see them in their home and retrieve that data from the bracelet. Here is an example report for a SCRAM case. So this, you'll get notified every time there's a drinking or tamper event, but then every so often, depending on your requirements, you can receive a full report detailing exactly what the drinking event or tamper event was and to what level. And it looks like this. So you'll get your introduction page on the far left-hand side, which tells you how long your client's been monitored, and outlines any events. So this one has 14 consumption events on it, but no tampers. You'll then get a number of inserts depending on any detected events, which breaks each one of them down. It tells you what time the event started, how long it went on for, and then when it finished. And it also gives you the level, so be that low, medium, or high level drinking events, and the transdermal alcohol concentration. And then on the back page of your report, you get a list of all the dates that your client was monitored and how many readings were pulled, just to show that they completed the full program. And then a summary of any alerts that we made you aware of. So any confirmed drinking events or confirmed tamper events. So that's what the report will look like. You can have them weekly, fortnightly, monthly, depending on your requirements. But like we say, we will notify you of any events that happen during your client's monitoring period, regardless of whether the report is due or not. So you are constantly up to date with what's happening. So why might SCRAM be the preferred choice over another alcohol method? So like we said, this is looking at the current alcohol drinking of your client and then it going forward. So if you're wanting to look back historically, it wouldn't be SCRAM, it would be a hair or a blood test. If you're wanting to look at the here and now, SCRAM is the perfect option. It's ideally suited to people who maybe aren't able to engage in a program as often, so they kind of just want it fitting and to go about their daily lives. They don't want to pop in for checkups and things like that. SCRAM is great for that. It's fitted to the ankle, off they go, and then we just receive the readings through the base station once they reach their home again. It's monitoring for long periods of time. So it's great if you wanted someone on a program for, say, up to 120 days, where we can keep you in touch, and we can update you every time there's a drinking event. So we know every 30 minutes whether that client is drinking or not, and then we can update you as soon as we're aware of it. So it's great for keeping in touch with the client if they are remote and you don't get to see them very often. I'm going to hand back over to Andrew now, who's going to talk you through some of the benefits. But if you do have any questions about what we've spoken about, please do use the chat and the Q&A function, and we'll cover those at the end.
That's great. Thanks, Ashley. Yeah, so just to finish off on SCRAM then, as Ashley says, please do ask any questions that you do have, put those in the chat or the Q&A facility. But yeah, so the key benefits of using SCRAM with AlphaBiolabs is that we offer free weekly, fortnightly or monthly court approved reports. So whatever frequency suits you really, that's included at no extra cost. And we also, we do ensure that we notify you of any drinking event or any alcohol consumption within 24 hours of the event being identified. Now that's not 24 hours of the drinking event actually happening, because we have to firstly identify it and do some further checking. So it's when we first identify it, within 24 hours of that, we will then notify you. You do get a dedicated account manager to deal with all your inquiries and to produce your reports, and it is legal aid agency approved. We also offer simple pricing structure with monthly invoicing. You also have a professional fitting and removal of the bracelet, and that's usually within 3 days of making contact with your client, the wearer. The majority of SCRAM cam wearers also do remain completely sober and compliant while wearing the device. So again, SCRAM really does work. Okay, so with that, just to move on to Smart Mobile now, I'm going to start with the second poll, which is very similar to the first poll, but asks you about Smart Mobile. I'll just launch that now. That should be on your screen. And I'll just give you a few moments to answer those questions. Thank you. It's great, lots of responses coming in. I think just about everybody's done that now. Okay, so I'll just end the poll there. Thank you for contributing to that. And I'll share the results with you. So a different picture with Smart Mobile. Have you previously heard of Smart Mobile? So about 15% of you have heard of it. So it's obviously not as well known as SCRAM. And of those that have heard of it, have you used the product with a client? Nobody has. So obviously that means, would you use the product again? Then nobody's going to answer that. So I think the message there, as I would expect, is Smart Mobile is a newer product in the industry compared to SCRAM. So we'll talk to you in a lot more detail about it now. Hand you back to Ashley. Thank you.
Okay, so Smart Mobile. Obviously, there's a lot of you that haven't even heard of the device. So we'll talk a little bit more about how this works and the clients that it would suit. So the Smart Mobile is in essence a breathalyzer test. So it's looking at the alcohol that you have in your body at the time that you provide that sample. Now, historically, breathalyzer testing hasn't really been that popular. The main reason being that you have to get someone out with the breathalyzer to identify the client that's providing the sample, and it's just looking at there and then. So to get someone to go back out and visit your client on a regular basis, it's not really the preferred method, which is why other people have opted for different methods. However, with the Smart Mobile, it takes a photograph of the client every time they provide a sample, which means that it takes away the need for a professional to come in and administer the test. It's something that your client can do themselves in their own home, or if they're out and about, they can carry it with them and provide a sample as and when you feel is necessary. So the device is customized for every user. So it completely depends on your client's needs and the requirements. We see varied types of testing being used. Some clients are put on programs where they give a sample every morning and every evening into the device. So they would simply take the device out when it notifies them that a test is required, give a sample of breath into the device, it takes a photograph of them at that time, and then it uploads it onto a portal where we can view it and report on it. So sometimes the requirement is that they do that every morning and evening. Sometimes the more popular type of this test is to provide a sample an hour before, say, a contact session, or an hour before they have custody of their children, and then again halfway through that session. It completely depends on the situation that your client's in and what you deem necessary for this type of testing. But we can customize it to suit you. So we can do random testing, where it just pops up at any time requesting that they provide a sample, or we can do a scheduled testing that's agreed with yourselves where the client provides at certain times. Like I say, once they've given a sample, that photograph and the reading is uploaded onto a portal, so we can view it. It'll also ask them for a second test, just to, one, confirm that the first test is correct and accurate, which we know it is, but also to see if that reading is going up or down. If the reading's going up, then they've drunk close to providing the sample. And if it's going down, then it means that they drank prior and they're still metabolizing that out of the system. However, your client can also provide a sample at any time into the machine. So if, say, for instance, you had a meeting with them and they weren't due a test, but you requested that they did one, they can still use the device for that and it'll just go straight onto the portal. As you can see, it comes in its own little carry case in that bottom picture. It's very small, very discreet, easy to transport around with them. It does have a built-in GPS tracking so that we can locate the device if it is ever lost. Ideally, the client will keep it with them at all times, so they'll know exactly where it is, but it does have that function if required, but it does need to be charged in order for that function to be working. So it's just a bit like a mobile phone. We would ask your client to plug it in on an evening, give it some charge, and then carry it with them throughout the day. Again, we can offer reporting for this, where we send those out to you at a time to suit you, be that weekly, fortnightly, or monthly. This is an example report from the Smart Mobile. So kindly, someone in our office took this home, had a drink, and then provided a positive result for us so we could demonstrate that to you. But on the left-hand side on the front page, it shows you how many tests were required and how many were provided. So you can see whether the client is complying or not, which obviously we would keep you up to date with. You'll see the testing schedule there. So the testing schedule for this particular client was just over the weekends. And that was programmed in by us before the device was given to them. And then she kindly provided a sample and tested positive on the Sunday. And then there was those follow-up tests. So we can see there that the level of alcohol was going up and then it started to come back down again. We also include the photograph at the start of testing. So when the device is delivered, an initial photograph will be taken, and that's what you can see in that top right-hand corner. And then one is taken with every reading, whether it be negative or positive. So you can make sure that it is your client that's providing those samples. So when might this be the preferred choice? We would say that this would be more suited to clients who are compliant with a testing program. Unlike SCRAM, this type of device means that the client has to actively engage with it, where the SCRAM is just fit to the ankle and the client can go about their day. With this type of testing, they would need to take the device out at the allocated times and provide a sample into it. So it needs to be with someone who is willing to engage with the program. And that's why it's more commonly suited to someone who has contact with their children, who wants to go, who wants to see them and have that time extended, and is therefore willing to participate in a program like Smart Mobile. We have seen as well that this is opted for when someone has had a SCRAM bracelet on in the beginning. So if they were going through a program where they were either just drinking when their children weren't in their presence, so going out on the weekend still, but maybe not drinking in the week, or attempting to become abstinent. Once they've successfully completed that program, the Smart Mobile is sometimes used as the next step in order to still have that monitoring there, but with some trust put into the client to engage with the program, knowing that they successfully completed a SCRAM monitoring. So they can be used hand in hand or individually, depending on your client's circumstances. So I'll hand back over to Andrew. He's going to cover the benefits, and then we've got time for some questions before the end of the webinar.
That's great. Thanks, Ashley. Yeah, so just to stress, really, I think you can look at both solutions independently of each other for your clients, absolutely, but you should also consider them where, for a particular client, you might look at starting with SCRAM and then progressing to Smart Mobile in the future. So it's just a different angle of how you can think about those two solutions. So just to finish off, the benefits of Smart Mobile. So as Ashley says, again, like with SCRAM, there's free weekly, fortnightly or monthly court-approved reports available. It is cost-effective breath alcohol monitoring. It includes the camera and also GPS tracking, and it has a 5-day battery life, so it's not like it has to be charged up on a daily basis. It also has internal data storage for up to 250 tests. So if there's any problem with data transfer or anything, then we know the data is still stored on the device. It's lightweight, it's discreet, and it's easy to use wherever your client might be. And it does encourage the participant accountability. It is really a private and convenient way to monitor alcohol intake. So in comparison to SCRAM, it's a completely different solution, but it should be considered as part of your overall sort of alcohol monitoring requirements. Okay, so just before we go to questions, I'm just going to launch a final poll. This is just one simple question, which should be on your screen now. So based on what you've heard this morning, how do you think SCRAM and Smart Mobile might work best for you with your clients? And you've got 4 options there. Lots of mixed responses coming in, which is great. I'll just give you a few more moments, then I'll share the answers. So will Scrum and Smart Mobile work best for you independently of each other, as a scaled monitoring program for the same client, both of the above, or you're not sure yet? I think just about everybody's answered that, so thank you very much. I'm going to end the poll right now and share the results with you. So about 11% of you see them still really working independently of each other. Another 13% of you see it as possibly a scaled monitoring program for the same client, but 58% of you, the majority, see it as both the above. So I guess depending on your specific client's needs, you could use one or the other or look to progress from SCRAM to Smart Mobile. And 18% of you say not sure yet, which is totally understandable. Great, well, thank you very much for completing that poll. I'm just going to stop sharing the screen. And now we'll move on to questions. I think we've had quite a few coming through, Ashley.
Yeah, we've got some good ones in here, actually. Some ones that would be good to clarify. So the first one is, if a client stayed out of their home for a day or two, would these readings still be captured when they return home? So I think this was more about the SCRAM monitoring. The answer is yes. Theoretically speaking, your client could be away from home for 90 days and the readings would still be captured within the bracelet. We wouldn't advise that because we obviously want them to be uploaded so we can report them to you. But the bracelet will have a battery life of 90 days before it needs the readings extracting from it and a new battery replacing. All of this is included within the cost of SCRAM, and it's something that we can go out and do. But anything up to 90 days would be stored in the bracelet. And then once they come home, it would communicate with the base station and it would do a data upload of however many days it hadn't heard from it from. And then we could report that back to yourselves. Another question, does the photo on the Smart Mobile capture them doing the breathalyzer? Yeah, so the photograph is taken as they provide the sample. So as the breath sample is going into the machine, the photograph is taken at that point. So the initial photograph, we get them to do an initial reading when we arrive, and then every other one is done at their testing schedule. So it's always taken as the breath is going through the machine so that we can be 100% sure that the person in the photograph is the person that provided the sample. What else have we got? We'll do one more just because of time. What happens if a client misses their testing window? Okay, so again, this one is about Smart Mobile. So your client is allocated a testing time based on what your requirements are. So say, for instance, my testing window today was 9 a.m. We would set a parameter around that. So we'd set it from around 5 to 9 until around 10 past to warn the client that the breath sample is required. And it lets off a small beeping sound to make them aware that it's time to provide the sample. If for whatever reason they miss that testing time frame, we would advise them to provide a breath sample at the earliest possible time, so as close to that as they can, be that 20 past, 9:30. And then it would be on them to explain to either yourselves or the court, depending on the circumstances, the reasons why they missed that testing window. But we always advise them to give a breath sample as close to it as possible if they do miss the 15-minute window. Just due to time, I'll leave the questions there, but the rest of them will be sent back to you via email, I believe, but Andrew will clarify that.
That's great. Thanks very much, Ashley. And thanks to all of you for the questions that have come in this morning. Do apologise, not a chance to answer them all within the 30 minutes, but as Ashley says, we will answer to all of them individually when you get the recording of the webinar sent to you tomorrow. So there will be answers to all the questions on that particular email. So there were quite a few questions on pricing as well. So just to give you a very brief idea, both solutions are charged very similar. So it's charged based on the duration, how long you require your client to use that particular solution. It starts at $595 plus VAT for the first month. And for any additional month, it's approximately about an extra £300 per month. And for that includes everything. So reporting, the collection, the fitting, the removal, and the ongoing support. Well, I will provide full details of that with the email tomorrow. Okay, so just to finish off, so why choose AlphaBiolabs? Well, we provide sample collections from any address in the UK. We've also got our free collection service from one of our 11 UK walk-in centres. We always provide user-friendly reports with all our testing and dedicated account and case managers. We also have the accreditations UCAS ISO 17025 and ISO 9001. With the alcohol monitoring, if you were interested in requesting a quote from us, we are running a special promotion. So for any quote request between now and the end of the year, we will give you a 10% discount on that price quote. There's a number of ways you can request a quote. You can give us a call on the number there, or by emailing us at testing@alphabiolabs.com with your requirements. You just need to quote the code ALC10. That will ensure you get the 10% discount with the quote. Alternatively, you can go to the website alphabiolabs.co.uk and request a quotation online. Any quote request that we give before the end of the year with the 10% off, that will also be honoured if you, for whatever reason, don't actually instruct us to provide the service until the new year. So any instruction up to the end of January will still be valid for the 10% discount. So you've still got quite a lot of time to take us up on that offer. So just about there now. So, thanks very much for your time again this morning. There will be a very brief webinar survey which will appear on your screen in a moment. It will literally take you 30 seconds. If you could very kindly answer that survey, I think there's 5 questions in there. That's really invaluable feedback for us for our future planning of these webinars. So would appreciate it if you could kindly do that. So that all leaves me to say thank you very much once again for your time this morning. Thank you to Ashley. Please do get in touch with us. We are the experts in legal DNA, drug and alcohol testing. There's all our sort of key points of contact on the screen there for you. We're also on social media on LinkedIn and Twitter. If you're on there, please do look us up, give us a follow, and we'll follow you back. So that just leaves for me to say thank you once again for your valued time this morning. Hopefully you found that of interest and use, and have a great day. Thanks very much. Bye.